Knicks friends and family, what's going on? We back with Knicks and Bruises. I got the Queen Steph in the building with me. We're gonna get right into it. I'm gonna give a quick uh bruise, and that was definitely the loss at the buzzer to the Phoenix Suns. So many chances in that game. I mean, free throws obviously killed us, but then the lack of that offensive rebound bounced around. I think touched maybe two Knicks, definitely one Nick, and we just couldn't pull that rebound in, and and ultimately the other Cam, not our Cam Johnson, hit that three to kill us, and I don't know if that's the bruise or if just Randall's lack of mental discipline in that moment when he's having a phenomenal game. I think he ended up still being the leading scorer of the game, being ejected early in the third quarter. So those two things really bruised. But I don't want to dwell on no negativity. We came back and we got a big bounce back win.
Mhm.
Um, even with Randall not playing well. Um, Queen, what was your thoughts? You could briefly talk about that Phoenix game, if you know what I mean. But then you could talk as long as you want and give me your thoughts on that win that we witnessed, finally ending the 7 game losing streak.
Losing streak. I don't know if I have much to add with Phoenix. It was the same thing. No matter what type of lead we have, it's never comfortable. Just given how many leads we've given up and lost, so you never get comfortable in a game like that. And down the stretch, RJ missed a foul shot, Burks missed a foul shot. Um, And what can go wrong does go wrong. Cam had the presence of mind to duck back behind, the ball handler, and the ball handler saw him and just flicked it back. And he pulled up, and it was a bank shot.
Yeah,
So I feel like the Knicks then somewhere along the line pissed off the basketball guard some some sort of way. Um, and we can't catch a break. Then we go to the Clippers, and you know the same thing. We have this big lead. You're wondering if we're going to be able to pull it out. They cut it from 26 in the first half to like 12
12.
somewhere in the third quarter, I believe it was. And Cam hit some big shots for us. IQ, and then the next thing we're back up 20, and that's what needs to happen. Sometimes it's not how much points you have at the end of the game. That's important as well, because we need every point we can get, but it's also when you get those baskets. That's critical as well. So when you're holding on to a lead, those timely baskets to push your lead back up and make it harder for the team to come back, or when you're trying to make a comeback, those timely baskets you need to complete the comeback. So when I'm looking at players, it's their overall stats, but also when did they get them, because that makes a difference.
Agreed. Agreed. So, just to jump back to that loss in Phoenix, prior to the game, and me looking at the starting lineups or whatever, or the guys on that team, and me seeing Cam Johnson, and then me
Mhm.
remembering, some of his performances in the playoffs, and just who he's become as a player, with still having that upside to his game. Immediately, in my brain, I was thinking, this is who I hope Cam can have that type of um effect or role, if not bigger, on our team. I think our
Mhm.
Cam is a better defender, but it just because of the two names, it just immediately made me think about his role, our Cam's role.
Mhm.
Similar builds. I think our Cam is a little slimmer,
Mm-hmm.
but probably a little bit more mobile or versatile. Not
Mm-hmm.
taking anything away from their Cam, and then how ironic it was that he's the guy that Randall got into the incident with. Him not relatively having a good game up until that point,
Mm-hmm.
but that point maybe sparking something in him personally because he went off after that. In particular in the fourth quarter,
Mm-hmm.
so even him winning, hitting that game winner, and you talk about the basketball gods, it almost felt like it was meant to be like the way he performed after the little altercation or whatever,
Right.
and it was crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I definitely feel like you gotta any little thing could be a spark, whether it be a negative spark or a positive spark. And it's like that in life. You know what I mean? Any little decision might
Mm-hmm.
alter your path moving forward. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. Shout out to David L in the chat. Um, appreciate you joining us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the win. Um, there's a lot of chatter going around about, oh look, Tibbs finally ran with these young guys and gave them some burn, and now we got our win, and that's why we won. And then others will argue that we had the lead and they maintained it, and they got to play based off of that, based off us having the lead, not based off like they weren't, not taking anything away from the young guys, but you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like they weren't the reason we won. They were part of the reason we won. But what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that? As far as that narrative of, finally he went with the young guys, and this is what we should have been doing all year, and the results
Yeah.
would have been the same all year. Um,
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been playing the young guys all season. The only people too that weren't playing was Sims and
and
McBride.
Deuce.
And Sims played in the loss to the Phoenix, and he also played in the loss to, who did we play before? Philadelphia. He played in that game, and we lost as well. So I don't believe that narrative. McBride did play, but I didn't see, other than Sims, McBride played more in that game. Um, I didn't see where, not to take anything away from him, like you said, but I don't see where McBride did something that helped us win this game. You know what I mean? And the other young players were playing anyway. So I'm not buying into the narrative. I think the Knicks won because we had that big lead, and when they made some shots to cut it to 12, we bent, but we didn't break. And we made
Hmm.
some timely shots at that point to bring the league back to 20.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you for the most part. I think the people who argue about Cam in particular, and we're gonna talk about Cam in a little bit. Um, he hasn't even been here long enough, I think, for you guys to kind of have that argument. But if you want to have the argument about McBride, or you want to have the argument about Sims, even though I think Sims has had ample opportunities throughout the year and has shown, what I mean, he didn't really have any games where he was a liability or anything of that nature. That's but I think that's a different argument for people. Oh, one thing that stood out for me, and I'm not an analytic guy at all. I kind of just look at them to see what they are, but I don't base my opinion off of them. I kind of base my opinions off of. Sorry, we got a rainstorm coming right now. I don't know if you hear it, but I base my opinion off what I see more than analytics. Even though I check out analytics,
Mm-hmm.
McBride was a plus 22, with the second highest plus minus on the team behind RJ, who was like a 36 plus 36, and then third was Quickly, who was a plus 15. And even though I don't follow analytics or go by them, you know, I have to at least acknowledge them. And I guess I gotta have help with the breakdown and the understanding of them to kind of live by them, which is why I don't. But that's pretty impressive to have 3 points one assist, and then be a plus 22, and that be the second highest plus minus on the team. So you know on high on through my visual, I agree with you. I don't think he affected the win that much because I can't really pinpoint anything. But when I look at that stat, it was eye popping to me. What are your thoughts on that? And if you have some insight into the analytics, where maybe you could help me understand it a little bit better. And
Yeah, I think
what are your thoughts?
the only thing I can add is that it does have something to do with who you're on the court with. That's the
Hmm.
only thing I could really say about plus minus. Yeah, I don't really have much else to add over and above what I said about McBride, and I know, and we'll get into Cam in a bit, so then we could talk more about him.
All right. But yeah, in the chat, if anybody has any insight on that, and what's your thoughts on him having the plus 22? I understand that it's based off of who you're on the floor with too, or who you're on the floor with as well affects what your plus minus is going to be. And I understand RJ's was 36 because not only did he play with the starters, but he played a lot of minutes with the second unit. Um, and so again, quickly would be in there, but it's just astonishing to me when a player could have such a minimal impact on the stat sheet, but that be kind of like the biggest stat on there. Um, and I'm gonna look into it as it goes forward and as we see more of McBride, because it did intrigue me for those guys who have the McBride argument. But I'm definitely in agreement with you on it because I base my opinions on eye tests, and he wasn't bad, but he didn't take initiative in my opinion to kind of stand out in what he did. It just so well that the team that was on the floor with him while he was on there played well. You know what I mean? And that's no
Yeah.
knock, and it's no credit to him in my opinion. Personally, um, Cam on the other hand, I think he stood out. He stood out by far his best game as a Nick. I love throughout his time here. I love to see him and RJ on the floor together. Um, Even though it's small increments, I think they feed off each other in moments. Um, and I think we can only look forward to seeing more of that the more they play together. But he shined in that second unit. He shined with RJ off the floor. I think there came a point in that game where he actually was the featured player. I don't know if it was told to him or not. Whether it was or wasn't, I think both is a positive. If it was told to him, that's great because it's showing they have some faith in you. They want to see what you can do, and they're kind of carving out and seeing if you could fit into a certain role that could be of value moving forward. And then if they didn't say anything to you and you just took that initiative, guess what? That's what you're gonna have to do to get on the floor, stay on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
and earn your way into Tibbs' heart, as Sim would say. So what were your thoughts on Cam? What stood out? Um, do you think he's making Tibbs have to really make a decision about where he could fit in
Mm-hmm.
this rotation?
Right,
What are your thoughts?
I liked his play yesterday, last night. I liked his aggressiveness, like you said, whether they asked him to do it or whether he felt we needed it and he stepped into it. I liked it. I liked, just how he gets his shots, hit the three, taking it to the basket. He's really long and wiry, so to speak. So I like the way he played. Um, but again, this is just how it is with young players. You're going to have games like that, and then you're going to have games that are not so great. I mean, I think um, you know, it depends on what Tibbs is looking for. I
Hmm.
remember with Knox, Tibbs would say, "I know what he can do offensively. I want to see what he can do in the rest of his game." In other words, I'm not impressed by what you're doing offensively. I know you can do that. I'm not sure what Tibbs is looking for Cam. Is he
Hmm.
looking for more offense? If he's looking for better defense, is he looking for him to just take his shot? I think it's different things for different people. I remember with Fournier in the beginning of the season, he was like, I just need him to shoot. Whether he makes it or not, I need him to shoot. So whether, to answer your question, is he making an impression on Tibbs? It depends on what Tibbs is looking for him. I know as far as defensive stats, they weren't a lot. I think he had 2 rebounds, a steal or something like that. But on this team, we need offense. If you can guard your position and you can score the ball, we need that. And that's what he brought in the second unit. So yeah, I'm encouraged by that. But with all of these young players, I'm not getting ahead of myself. Because it's just the nature of their development that is going to be up and down. But I really liked what I saw. Yeah.
Fair enough. Um, I, 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 I loved what I saw. It's I'm trying to be more like you in the sense of not getting ahead of myself, but I had arguments as crazy as it's gonna sound, but I admit, I stand on a lot of things that I say, or at
Mm-hmm.
least admit them, whether I still feel that way. And he
Mm-hmm.
was a guy, even coming out of the draft, I
Mm-hmm.
thought there was a chance that he could be better than RJ. I thought he was gonna be one of those guys where he didn't get to show everything that he was capable in college,
Right.
and he, to his credit, found a role, fit the role, and performed in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even
Mm-hmm.
if it took some sacrifice, and
Mm-hmm.
for us to be a good or great team, we've heard this from Tibbs throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
Players are gonna have to sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna be able to do or show everything you're capable at all
Right.
times. You got to
Right.
do what's best for the team. Oh man, I can't
Right.
believe I sound just like Tibbs.
Right. But you know what? That goes for Fournier as well. Him trying to find his way with Randle, and then now RJ. I mean, I've seen Fournier have a bigger role than he has right now. Like right now, he does a lot of 3-point shooting, a lot of playing off of RJ and playing off of Randle. But I've seen him in a more aggressive role where he's had
Hmm.
the ball in his hands, and I think that's a sacrifice that he's making um, on this team where he's not showing all of what he can be. And I think that's what Andy is pointing to when he says he's not being used the right way. I wouldn't say he's not being used the right way. I would say that just like Bosch when he went to Miami, when you're playing with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, your role changes tremendously, and you're
Hmm.
not showing everything that you can do. And I kind of think that's what's going on with Fournier.
That's a fair take. I mean, I was one of the people that kind of was saying that early in the season as well, in the sense that it was going to take time for him to even figure that out, because he's coming to not just a new situation, new teammates, but the role. He's not coming in to be the guy that he. I mean, let me rephrase it, because I think he was being brought in to be the guy he's been throughout his
Mm-hmm.
career.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to come into a situation and just pick your pick your
Yeah.
spots, figure
Yep.
out when to do it and
Yep.
when not to, and
Yep.
not step on toes,
Yep.
and not interfere with what was before you. So it's crazy. As bad as this season has been, some of it is understandable. And just remind me, because I want to talk about Tibbs and the blame he's getting, and people just not wanting to move forward with him. I have a take on that. I'm gonna get into that later though.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we talked about Cam. Cam did great. Let's not get too excited. It's hard for me because I was a huge Cam fan,
Oh,
from
you can get
college.
excited. This is just how I am
I
with
mean, no,
everybody.
I don't
you
want to
know.
get excited because I don't want to have to taper it down later. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to ease back my words or my excitement. So if I take it slow and game by game, and let
Right.
him, based off his opportunity, like even though I'm a huge Cam fan, I wasn't one of the guys that said, "Oh, he got to start."
Mm-hmm.
Like people are saying it now, I
Right.
understand.
Right.
I mean, I get it, but people were saying that from the trade. like from the day of the trade. Like, yo, he got to start. Let him figure his way in and earn it. And I think last night was a opportunity for him, and he showed
Yeah.
improve.
Yeah.
Let him continue to do that and make it to where it's not a question of whether he should. Because if he outplays Fournier, outperforms him defensively, if he does what makes him a better starter, I think Tibbs will do that. I honestly believe that, especially coming off of what we've witnessed this so far this year. Um,
But you know what though? You can argue that this team, as bad as we've been and as bad as our record is, you can argue that we're not that far off. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you think about the big leads we've had, it's not, that tells me it's not necessarily talent, right? I mean, we've been in these
mhm.
games with some of these top teams and we've had big leads. That tells me it's not necessarily talent, but chemistry, learning how to close, maturity, and not just personal maturity, but like game, game maturity, learning, learning how to close. Um, it's possible that with a tweak here and a tweak there, this is a totally different team next season. So I know a lot of people want Fournier gone. I think one of the other things Cam would need to do is Thibodeau would need to trust him because
Mhm.
Thibodeau trusts Fournier, and Thibodeau is a big trust trust guy. So um, let's see what happens. I don't know if there's going to be big changes this season. I don't even know if there's going to be big changes given our salary cap next season, unless we're able to pull off some trades. And the last
And
thing I'll say, go ahead, Tom.
I mean, no, that's you're segueing. You're
Oh, I'm
segueing
saying good.
perfectly.
The
So,
last thing I want to say is I guess this is more of getting ahead of ourselves or a cautionary tale. Why is Cam better than Fournier right now? Because he had a good game, because he might have a higher ceiling than Fournier. I think what coaches are looking at is what can you give me right now?
mhm,
And what can you give me consistently right now? And what can I count on right now? So right now, I don't think Cam is better than Fournier. I will always give the edge to somebody who's been in this league for 5, 6, 7 years, who have played on a decent level and has been consistent. I'm not going to say he's played at a very high level, right? Orlando didn't go to the playoffs, that many times, maybe once, right, or twice. But he's also played in the Olympics. He hits big shots for us in games. I think people are so down on Fournier that they don't give him credit for his shot making, those tough shots he's taken in the corner off the dribble that that helps us. He's not a elite defensive player. But when I look at Robinson on Miami, neither is he. But because of the
mhm.
team concept, they're able to, So I'm not, Cam has a lot to do because with all of these talented guys, including RJ, the hardest thing, and RJ is beginning to get it now, is to do it game in and game out. That's it.
Agreed.
A
Agreed.
good game on Tuesday and five bad games and another one. So when you pop like that, I get to know, wow, his ceiling is high. His potential is high. But now it's about, can I get that from you every single game? And Fournier has these games too where he doesn't show, but he's
Mhm.
definitely more
I mean, I
consistent
mean,
at this point.
I agree, and I wouldn't be one to argue. I don't think most of the chat and the fans would argue that Cam is better at this point. There are a few that that will make that argument. I'll leave
Right,
that
right,
to
right.
them.
Mhm.
Um, but even early in the year, this is prior to us even having Cam. I made the argument that Fournier may be better suited in the second unit. He may be able to the things that Andy argues about, I think he may be able to do that in that second unit where and not have to
Right.
worry about who else he's playing the floor with, because he's not a selfish guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
He just needs the ball kind of at times. You know what I mean? He needs his touches, his things, and he's gotten better with that with the second unit as the
Mm-hmm.
season went on. But that was why I was making some of those arguments early
Mm-hmm.
about
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't benching him based off his performance or
Right. Right. Right.
because
Right.
he's not good enough. It was really about fit. So what? And
That
again,
second
these
unit is so slow. It's kind of faster though. Do you think Fournier could fit with them?
I think he can,
Yeah.
even if he's the trailer initially, and then if that speed doesn't work out in an initial fast play that he might not be involved in, he could be the guy that they reset with. And now, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially the
Mm-hmm.
faster you
Mm-hmm.
playing, you giving him the ball with 14 on the shot clock and saying, all right, our initial 10 seconds of trying to run something quick didn't work out. Here
Mm-hmm.
you go, eat and or create. You know what I mean? Because giving him the ball doesn't mean he's gonna shoot it every time. He has the ability to kind of pick what he's gonna do, whether it's find someone, break it down. So I mean that was my thinking earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and I could make that same point. Again, I'm not pushing for Cam to start, but I can make that same point that it may look better as a team or for the
Mm-hmm.
team if Cam was in that starting unit.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not saying that,
Right.
and I haven't read that as a exact argument. But if I was gonna argue for some of these people, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that would be my argument. As far as making that change, even if it's moving into next year, making it not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily now, and making him earn it now, as far as showing what he could do in these
Mm-hmm.
last 19, 18 games or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the segue. I think big decisions have to be made moving forward. Now, you know what I mean? Like whether it's obviously there's the trade deadline's over, so now it's kind of like evaluation. Um, let's see what we have in these guys, and let's see who we're gonna bring back ultimately. I mean, I shouldn't even say that because the only guy that is in that predicament right now is Mitch. As
Right.
far as oh yeah, pay that man. By the way, I got it. I gotta say it, but he's the only one in that position. So a lot of people are saying, oh, move this guy, move this guy. You have to be. You can't just move him or release him or buy him out. All of those decisions, those are not solitary decisions. Those are
Right.
decisions that are made by the team and the player, the team
Right.
and the other team that agrees for the trade. You know what I mean? So the team and the agent, whatever the case. So it's not that simple. And like you just mentioned a few minutes ago, we could very well be coming back with the same exact team, either minus or with Mitch,
Mm-hmm.
and at this point, I don't believe Kemba is going to play, but
Mm-hmm.
he has to agree to a buyout
Right.
if they're gonna buy him out, and if not, a team has to agree to take on his contract or fair trade his contract. So that's not really a decision the Knicks can make on their own. The
Right.
only decision they can make is to continue to keep him away from the team, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that being out of the question.
Right.
But we could very well come back with the same team minus Kemba and either with or minus Mitch. And I
Right.
think at some point, we're gonna have to, if we don't do any moves, we're gonna have to do a minimal contract point guard, or we're rocking
Yes.
with Burks again.
Oh no, no,
I'm
no.
just saying that
But right.
what is
Right.
available
Right.
without maneuvering.
Right. Right. I mean, lately, RJ, the last few games, RJ actually has been handling the ball and initiating the offense more.
Mm-hmm,
And Burke said something that I forgot about, that they're playing almost like positionless basketball right now.
mm-hmm,
It's not really that they have a point guard, it's between him, RJ, and Randall to initiate the offense. that switchability on offense and also that switchability on defense. And when you look at the Knicks starts, how they have started the game, you can't really argue with Burks. If you're looking at him as a traditional point guard, I get your point. But the Knicks have had leads. The Knicks aren't getting off to slow starts. The Knicks aren't getting blown out from the beginning. The Knicks can't close, and that's not a Burke issue. That's something else.
I agree. Again, so I mean, I'll be honest with you, and kill me if you will, chat,
Oh,
and kill me if you will, Steph.
mm-hmm.
I think if we run this team back, obviously minus Kimba, and I'm for pay that man Mitch. But if we run this team back, I don't think there's a way we play as bad as we've played this year. I think we underperformed this year. I know you hate when I say that because
No, 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 no. I can't say I disagree. I can't say I disagree.
but I think we learned from this situation. Um and hopefully, down the stretch we start to show that we've learned already from what we've been through, because like you said, we've had some big leads, double digit leads, I think, in like 6 consecutive games, uh 3 20-point leads, not including last game, prior within the last 8 games or so, and lost them all, and it's not even like we lost them in a variety of different ways. It
Mm-hmm.
was literally the same thing that killed us, that's been
Mm-hmm.
killing us all season long: late game execution, late game
Right.
turnovers, free throw shooting throughout the game.
That and play is um not having players you can count on. And I think, we're going to need that. Like, you need to be able to go into a game and knowing that I can count on these two players. Not that they can't have bad games, but you got to know who you can count on. And on this team, we don't know that. Other than RJ, since December, January, who can we count on that what you're going to get game in and game out? I don't think we do. But we may have to run it back. I hear you, Canal Ban lawyer, but like Tony said, every Nick is under contract next season, other than Mitch. If you can't find a team to trade with you, Fournier is back. If you can't find a team that wants Tony, or who wants Kimba, Kimba is back. You know what I mean? So the Knicks are kind of stuck. Now they will have expiring contracts. So maybe, at the trade deadline, it'll be easier to move off of those contracts because teams may want space. They'll have a better sense of what their team is at that point. But the beginning of the season, if another team doesn't want your players, what are you going to do? You got to bring them back and pay them. There's nothing you can do. They're under contract.
Now,
Now, if we can make some changes, I'm not as down on Fournier as some Knick fans. I'm sorry. I'm just not. Um, the Knicks defense, you should be able, if your defense is stout, you should be able to work with a player like Fournier on defense. But if your defense is raggedy to begin with, for somebody like Fournier is not going to help. You know what I mean? So um I'm okay. I'm okay with Fournier coming back. He's doing what we need him to do for us, which is hit big shots. His defense is not that great, but come on, the Knicks defense is not that great.
yeah, not this year. It ain't. That's for sure.
Mhm.
But no, I really truly believe, it's number one. It's not a failure if we have to bring this same team back. All right. Number one, if you're gonna consider it a failure, guess who everybody's should be mad at? The front office, not Thibodeau. And this is where I wanna go. I know I'm jumping around, but
No, I get you.
Tibbs' stellar performance last year, coach of the year. whether you think he should have been runner up or not, he got the award. And if you think he should have been runner up, you know what? I'll even give you that and say, guess what? In the running for coach of the year, you know, however you want to look at it, he did what he was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put the blame solely on the front office, but I think when you want to start giving blame, you have to start up there. You have to start up there before you can even reach the coach, and then before you can even reach the players. And I say that because they assembled the team, they brought the guys back, they went, they made the decision on Kemba.
Right.
And looking at this season, if there's one thing that we know for sure didn't work out, that might have even hurt the team, it's Kemba. And I'm saying this as a Kemba fan, and that wasn't a Tibbs decision. Matter of fact, the Tibbs decision, which I didn't even agree with at the time, was to sit him, which
Which
means
turned out to be the right decision when we
yes,
look at
and
what
that's what I'm.
happened later on. Right?
That's exactly where I'm going, because I was the guy saying you don't do that to Kimber Walker. I had PTSD from the Marbury situation
Yeah.
and going through this before, and I thought it was not handled in the correct manner. Whether you know what I mean, it wasn't about sitting him, benching him, whatever. It was just the way it happened, to go from starting to go to the bench or out of the rotation, situational, and then to have the excuse, the public excuse of I only view him as a starter. So if he can't start, he can't play.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
that that was crazy to me. But again, in hindsight and looking at where we are now, and him voluntarily stepping away from the team to focus on next year, blah blah blah. Like Tibbs knew what he was doing then, and made the right decision early, and kind of got criticized for it, and still had to deal with what he was left with after removing Kemba. So making the best of the situation. I think he tried that. Whether he made the right decision or made a mistake by not starting her quickly instead of
Mm-hmm.
going with Burks, or not starting her quickly and using Deuce in the second unit, whatever. Like, sure, he might have made some mistakes, but to be on him the way people are on him, and really not criticize everyone that should be criticized, or focus on why Tibbs had to do what he's been doing. I think it's unfair to him, and at the very least, he deserves at least next year, and next year with an open mind. You know what I mean? Like, if we have to come back with the same team because we have to, I don't know if it's because of incompetence of the front office at that point. They kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuck with, they made their bed, they got to lay in it. You know what I
Right.
mean? But
Right.
give them the chance to rectify it. Give the players the chance to kind of figure it out. Whether you think it should have took a full year, or most
Mm-hmm.
of the year or not. Let's see where they are next year, and even with the season, I'm encouraged
Mm-hmm.
about the future. Last thing, at the very least, we ride out next year, and those contracts are expiring. So if we can't move them
Right.
because nobody wants them, guess what? It's a reset anyway after
Right.
next year. Whether
Right.
it's because we did it through trade and this and that, or because the guys expired, or we didn't pick up that last year, and so we have that opportunity moving forward. And that's
Right.
where, at the same time, I criticize the front office. You got to give them credit in that, because nothing they did made us cap strap or locked in for long term. That was a long rant. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, listen, what I will say is there are things that Tibbs does that I don't agree with, right? But before I get into those things, I want to preface it by saying I'm not an NBA coach. So I'm just coming from my layperson's perspective. And I've coached college basketball, but still I didn't coach in the NBA. So I can look at him and say, I disagree with that. I would do it different. But the venom that the fan base is giving Tibbs, it's like they've been NBA coaches. They know without a shadow of a doubt what should be done in those situations. Now, I remember when I was coaching, I would make a decision and my friends would be at the game and they were knowledgeable basketball fans. And after the game, they would be like, why would you do A, B, and C? And then I would tell them my thought process behind it. And they'd be like, okay, now I understand. So I say all of that to say, when you're watching it on TV, you're coming with your own thought process of what you would do or what you think this NBA head coach should do. But he has his own factors that he's thinking about that has nothing to do with us, that we're not even privy to. So I get it. There's things I disagree with, but I'm not going to come with that fervor as if I know, you know? And the other thing is, most of us, to me, doesn't even seem to be upset that we're losing. We're upset that he's not playing guys. I'm like, I would be like, no, Tibbs needs to go because I feel like with this team, we could get more wins, blah, 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 blah. It's not even about wins or losses. Tibbs needs to go because he's not playing the 12th person on the bench. You look at Orlando, Detroit, these bottom feeder teams. There is one or two players on those teams that are not playing. On bottom feeder teams, lottery bound teams. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not saying we that far off, but the point I'm trying to make is it happens in every team that one or two players don't play for the entire season. You understand? I think we just like McBride and he was our draft pick, and Knicks fans really get behind our draft picks and we want them to see them play. And I get that, you know? But to be more specific, I would like to see Tibbs be a little more, do a little different things defensively. I would like to see him like just kind of change it up defensively, depending on who we're playing, changing it up in a game, depending on if somebody is going off on the other team. I would like to see that. That's just my request. Um, I would like to see. I don't really have a problem with the rotations, to be honest. But if somebody is hot, leave them in, a little bit. And if a team is not going well, take that team out and put somebody else. So I agree. That's what I would do. But I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know what's going into his thought process. So I'm not going to get all in a tizzy because he's not doing it. Only thing I could say is I would do it different if I was the coach. This is what I would like to see. You give Pop players that's not his type of players. Is Pop going to be successful no matter what? If you give Spoelstra players that are not his type of players, is he going to be successful no matter what? I don't know. As much as people talk about Miami, the last time Miami had a 50-win season was in 2013 or 2014.
You know what is gonna happen no matter what with
Mhm.
with a Pop and a Stro. They're gonna have the support and the backing of the organization and whatever decision
They make.
they make. You know what I mean? So it's not even so much,
Mhm.
especially Miami. It's not even so much of a Spoelstra type of player. It's a Miami Heat type of player. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know if it's the same in San Antonio, but you definitely got to be a Pop type of player. And Pop, Pop don't care about reputation. He don't even care what you did for me throughout your career on the Spurs. He will sit you in, he will sit a vet in a second, the whole starting five, all that. So,
Right.
salute to him on that.
I just want to say the last thing. There's 340 coaches who have ever coached in the NBA for at least one game, like 347. Thibodeau is ranked in the top 50 as far as winning percentage, including all of the losses he's piling up this season.
Mm.
He has a 57% winning percentage. Now, that doesn't mean He doesn't mean he's perfect, doesn't mean that you can't criticize him, doesn't mean you can't disagree. But let's not act like we're pulling a coach off the street. He has a better winning percentage than any coach who has ever played for, whoever ever coached for the Knicks. Again, doesn't mean he can't be fired. Doesn't mean you can't criticize him. Doesn't mean, whatever. But he's won in this league. 57% winning percentage. So if he has to go, the front office needs to go. Randle needs to go because this mess of a season that we have needs to fall on more than just one person.
I agree. I agree. I do want to start off with love and appreciate Julius Randle's passion and affection as he watched from the bench and seeing Cam Reddish put on that spectacular fourth quarter performance last game. One of the things that definitely stood out as a positive. I mean, you could hear him cheering him on without him visibly being on the camera screen. And then when they moved the camera to him, you could see him. That was great to see. And then got to start with love, and then go to the venom. Not even personally from me, but just things I've been reading throughout the past couple of days of RJ being, I'm sorry, Randle being jealous of RJ, and RJ, I'm sorry, Randle, not them not being able to coexist. So without necessarily going into exactly do you agree with that, because I believe I know where you're gonna answer. Do you think they can coexist, and more specifically, do you think Randle could coexist with RJ surpassing him in the pecking order? So whether that means RJ
Yeah.
being the number one, number two, or us bringing in the number one, RJ being two, Randle being three, or RJ being one, Randle being two, however you want to look at it, do you think do you think Randle can accept that? Because obviously, if you don't think he can accept that, then maybe that's where some of these fans are coming from, where they can't coexist. So
Well,
your thoughts
yeah.
on that?
Well, let me start by saying I don't believe in um, a number one and a number two. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe in, um, especially when players are close in talent. So I guess what I'm trying to say, I believe there is enough ball to go around for two ball dominant players where you don't have to worry about that. I think it becomes an issue now when you're going to bring in that third player like a Bosch to Miami. Where you're going to bring in, you got AD, you got LeBron. Now you're going to bring in a Westbrook. You know what I mean? Like
Can I
somebody is.
can
Mhm,
I just interject real quick?
mhm,
Because in those both those examples you give, it's surefire number one, number two already on the team.
mhm.
In this case, I think I think the logical thinking still is bringing in someone better than the both of them. At least in my perspective, maybe some people, and that could be another question you answer. Some people think
Mhm.
RJ can be the number one, and whether they think Randle could be number two, except number two or not, I don't know where their mind. Like I like to think of the whole
But
perspective
why
when
is
I'm.
that a chemistry issue? So there's so many shots to go around. If you're just talking about two people, I just don't see the I just don't see the issue. There's so many shots to go around. It doesn't become an issue with two people. You know what I mean? It becomes more of an issue with three people. So
Okay,
so when you say RJ surpasses Randle, RJ's not going to take 40 shots and Randle is only going to get 10.
I
It's
agree.
still going to be a even shot. So what's going to be different? RJ maybe RJ initiates the offense more than
Mo-
Randall. Okay,
mhm.
I don't really see that being. I don't really see that being an issue. You know what I mean? Like, so when we say these things in terms of the sentences we throw out there, but then when you ask people, what would that look like? Like, what would that look like? What would be different? So maybe RJ would initiate the offense more. Okay, I don't see why Randall still can't, be like, what would it look like when you say, oh, RJ's taking over, he's the leader, he's gonna what would that look like?
So
You know?
better question the initial one of again. This is things I've read out there. I don't believe in per se. I just want to get your perspective that Randall's jealous of the ascension of
Listen,
RJ.
on some level, on some level, he may have feelings like, yo, this guy is, listen, they're competitors. These guys are alphas. Randall don't have an alpha game because he's so inconsistent, in my opinion. But in his mind, he's the best player on this team. Like he has that alpha mentality. I don't think it's wrong for somebody to feel like, all right, I see what you're doing, but you ain't better than me. It becomes a problem now when you're gonna get selfish because of that. And you're not gonna pass this person the ball, or you're gonna you're not gonna play within the confines of the offense. You're not gonna dap a person up when they doing well and you see him open, but you're gonna pass it to the other
Hmm.
side. Now that's a problem.
Okay,
I
now
just don't see that.
oh, thank you, thank you.
I just
And
don't I
I ain't
just
gonna
don't see
lie,
that.
the chat be having me looking for it. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right, right, right,
I mean, a couple of things that I've noticed. Um, Randall is rarely the guy to run and pick up one of his teammates off the ground.
right.
It's usually two Knicks running to whomever fell, and Randall's rarely that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if like this is how much they got me looking for stuff to
I've noticed
try
that
to
though.
understand where they're coming from. Um,
Hmm.
again, this is why I noticed him cheering Reddish on so much and kind of being the lead, the lead cheerleader in that moment, because I'm looking for these things that that people are claiming are out there. So that was one, not seeing him pick up his teammate. Um, and I'm analyzing it so much. Like I'm like, man, he was the closest one to you, and he kind of turned his turned his back, and two other Knicks came running. So I'm like, damn,
Hmm.
is that something that you know what I mean? Does that mean something? Um, and I think one of the times he did that, it was RJ on the ground. So I'm like, but again, you know, I guess if you looking for things, you're probably gonna find things, whether they actually there or not. But I'm glad you ended your comment on you don't see that, because I don't really see that either. Um, even when RJ is cooking, I think Randall kind of gives RJ his reign to continue to cook, and he probably won't take his shot until RJ misses one. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Or RJ gets taken out the game, right? And then when RJ's taken out the game, Randall kind of says, "All right, now it's my turn,"
Right.
and he might make a bonehead play in that particular instance. You know what I mean? Maybe that's him
Right.
pushing too hard. Maybe that's him saying, "All right, RJ got 20. I gotta get on the board." You know what I mean? Like, so
It's
maybe
possible.
maybe
Yeah.
it is that,
Yeah.
but y'all really got me out there like scoping and looking for things that I don't know if they really there. So I'm trying to get someone who kind of doesn't have that perspective to
Right.
see if they see some of these things or not. And maybe you'll start seeing some things now
No,
that
I,
I'm
I
mentioning.
no, right, exactly. No, no, I've seen a lot. I mean, I think, just a segue to Queen's Court. I want to talk about Randall beyond the numbers. Just the things, those different things like that. He's a very emotional guy, and I don't have a problem with that. But will he ever get to the point where he can hone his emotions in such a way that it works for him? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the biggest thing for him is he needs
Mm-hmm.
to figure out what to do and how to negotiate all this emotionality that he has, so that he can still be his best self on the basketball court. We'll talk more about that on Queen's Court. But I like to separate feeling and action. He
Mm-hmm.
can feel whatever he wants to feel internally, you know, but you need to know how you need to show up for this team, no matter what you feel. And I think that's what I'm not getting, that, you know, because the fans are cheering from RJ now instead of me. I mean, as a human being, he might be disappointed in that. He might feel a way about that, but so much so that you're not going to pass him the ball,
Mm-hmm.
like so much so that you're not going to, you know what I mean? So I'm not. Um, I don't see that.
Fair,
I don't see
fair,
that.
fair, fair enough. Um, and again, I don't either, but I'm out there scoping and looking for things that might be a sign of jealousy or you know not supporting your teammate, or
Mhm.
anything that
I
maybe
hope
out
you don't
there.
mind.
No, not at all.
I'm
I
thinking of the
encourage it.
crossover.
Hey, you have all, what I mean, all creative control in the background, so absolutely.
Okay.
Keith Turner, you could read it. I'll highlight some as well.
Yeah. Randall is like Rasheed Wallace was, plays with a chip on his shoulder. People thought Wallace had a mental problem. That's just the way he played.
Mm. And
That's
you know
a
what?
yeah, that's a good point, because sometimes I do
It
wonder lately.
it's also another segue. Like,
Hmm.
it's crazy how you brought that up, because where I was going. So shout out to Keith Turner. I appreciate your comment, bro.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Um, last night, after the win, I'm on with Sim, and I'm in the chat. I got killed because I said, I asked, shout out to Spreewell. I asked him, if we had Steph Curry and Clay, minus the Kemba, minus the Fournier, I said, and is this a championship caliber team? And
Mhm.
I believe he said no. If he ended up saying yes, he definitely
Wow.
hesitated too long, to
Wow.
where I was like,
Wow.
and the only reason I brought that up was the argument we were having, not argument, the disagreement we were having was, you know one, Randall was brought in here ultimately, I believe, to be the third option at some point. He's paid like a third option on a championship level team. He's not paid like a first option, which
Who's
means,
getting 40 and 47 and Harden 55 million if he signs this extension.
and that's so I think he's in the role of a number one option because he's been the best guy on our team. But I think the long term goal was to have two guys better than him. We've talked about this
Right.
2 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? When we signed him initially, and I think a lot of people have forgotten that. So the argument I was trying to make was not comparing him as a player to Draymond Green, but comparing him just in a role of third option as Draymond Green. And I thought it fit more so because you talk about an emotional guy, a guy who could actually hurt your team with some of those emotions at times, but because he's with these two stellar all NBA Hall of Fame, what I mean, number one and number two guy, he also, that emotion can also benefit you at times. You know what I mean? And that was what I was leading to with the Randall's emotions. It's been detrimental. Of course, it's gonna be detrimental when you're losing. It's gonna get highlighted when you're losing. It's gonna look horrible when you're losing. He was the same. He was just that emotional guy last year. The difference was he was emotional in wins. You know what I mean? He was emotional, and we were taking care of business. He was emotional, and he was performing to a higher level than we've seen from him ever. So you know what I mean. I think we got to look at the broad picture of everything and stop looking at things in a bubble and saying, now he's underperforming and now his emotions are a detriment. When in my opinion, he was just just that emotional in the year where he had his career year.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll you're right. You're definitely right that his emotionality is the same. But we're seeing the negative side of it, so to speak, because I'm sure he's frustrated about how the season is going. I'm sure as much as we're frustrated, think about them. They came in with high expectations and it's being dashed day by day, day by day, day by day. I don't know if you've ever played basketball or any sport. You go on a losing streak, oh, it just sucks. Nothing is right. Nothing tastes good. You don't want to talk to nobody. And as soon as you get that win, your mood changes. You could take a deep breath. It really is a mental grind when you're losing game after game after game after game. It really is. But he's not the only one that's gone through a 6-game winning streak or 9-game winning streak. And I just think, and I have no idea. I'm just guessing that he's so disappointed in this season that sometimes he just seems like he's going rogue. Like, you think about, when Fournier, and he's getting so upset over like
minute things,
because it seems like he's on the edge as it is.
Mm-hmm.
What could have possibly happened with Cam? What could he? Y'all was separated already. The official was between you, and you just gonna go like I'm like.
Even if he said something, that means whatever he said was heard, not only by the official, but you know what I mean, by the surrounding teammates of him and you.
Right.
So I don't care what he said. Let that be a detriment to him rather than your reaction. Get it off the hook. Let it off the hook.
It sounds like he's wound up too tight. Think about that time when I forgot what the incident was, but Fournier was trying to hold him back, and he almost wrestled Fournier. I was like,
and he was going to a ref, I believe.
Right. Right. Think about the time in the huddle. Now, I didn't see this. This was a video on Twitter when he was walking away from the huddle. Oh. No, not that one. There was another one. He was walking away from the huddle, and Kenny Payne, who coached him as an assistant coach at Kentucky, tried to pull him back into the huddle, and he just slung his arm away. This guy is wound too tight. He's just wound too tight. I don't want to make jokes, but he's married. I don't understand why he's wound so tight.
I mean, some people say like I mean, that's I'm joking.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
Yeah,
I ain't got no wife. I wish I did. So shout out to that man. But
so
sometimes
I don't.
I'm glad I don't.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I don't get it. I don't get it. But with that type of emotionality, you can't. I don't want to see. You gotta be able to count on him. And you just can't with that. Remember Rashid? Somebody brought up Rashid. He would get texts, get thrown out the game, and he was one of their better players. They was leaning on him.
But all right, when you say they, who are you talking about?
Portland. That's when he was. I'm talking about when he was on Portland.
Now here's the thing. What happened when he became the fourth option?
Yeah, it wasn't that.
You see, he was still the same guy. He was still the same, but that's my point. He was still the same exact guy on Boston, right? No different. Still had technical problems. Still had the emotion. Still kind of let my small things get to. But he was that fourth option. It made a difference. It made a difference. He was allowed to still be who he was,
Right.
but it wasn't like, yo, you got the whole team looking up to you. But you the
Right.
franchise. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
So at the very least, before everybody says, "Hey, let's get rid of Randle," let's at least consider what it would look like or the possibility of him being on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Same with a Fournier,
Mm-hmm.
like these guys who I believe are valuable and
Mm-hmm.
can be pieces on a championship team. They just have to be lower on the totem pole of of the list. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Let's see
Like
what
Dennis
what it
Rodman. You was only asking him to rebound, just do. And you know what? Because he was, but this is the difference, though. This is the difference. Rodman was exceptional.
Mhm.
So because he was exceptional at what he does, you kind of dealt with that. And he was surrounded by strong leaders in Scottie Pippen and Michael. But even when you looked at Michael Jordan's documentary, he would decide that he's going to Vegas because he needed a break, or
and,
what
and,
have you.
and
He was.
I mean that's the extreme of
Mm.
it. But I'll say this in that argument. Can you imagine if the Grizzlies decided they was gonna build their team around Rodman?
Right, right. You got
Like
to bring him. You got to bring.
now
Yeah,
now that those antics are not gonna fly. Now those things are are gonna look different. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
like you can't.
Right.
And so I
And
mean,
if he
it's a
was
fine.
performing better, because then you could say, we getting a tech here, we getting this, he getting that. But for the most part, he's holding it down. He's not. And I think that's what makes it worse.
I agree, but even in that, he didn't have a good game last game, right? I think we could win games with him without him playing well, and not even saying playing well, because I think everything is based off of what he did last year. I don't think 90% of the fans are looking at his numbers and actually saying, you know what, those are acceptable numbers. They're not all NBA, obviously. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They're not like you. I mean, you could argue they're not all-star numbers, but I could argue they're borderline all-star numbers in a bad season. You know what I mean? Like let's look
If
at
you're
things
if you're
from.
not looking at the efficiency, if you're just
I'm
looking
I'm
at
I'm
the.
I'm saying I'm looking at the efficiency. That's why I'm saying
Mm.
with with the bad season, it's still borderline all-star numbers. Like so I'm looking. I,
But when you
I'm
say numbers, you're not talking about the percentages. You're just talking about points,
I'm
rebounds,
saying I'm
assists.
saying I'm saying I'm saying the percentages is why I'm saying with a bad season. Like so, I'm looking at both. I'm saying the numbers aren't even a reflection of the bad percentages. I think like theoretically he should have worse numbers. You know what I mean? Like
They are.
that's what I'm saying. I,
Right.
I, I'm
Yeah.
I'm not
I
saying
mean,
he should have been an all-star. I'm saying
I
if the percentages are slightly better in all categories, it's all-star numbers,
what
and it changes the
that
wins.
goes, but Tony, that goes without saying. If
Yeah,
his
but
percentages was better, his points are
I
going to be better.
I think a
His
lot of
his
I
his,
think a
his
lot of
threes are going
people
to get better.
really
It's going
think
to be
he's
better.
trash. I think people
But you
really
know
think
what?
he's trash. I
I'm
think
not going to
people
say
really
he's.
don't respect the the overall picture of him, and they're looking at it strictly from a last year's performance to this year's performance. I think we all agreed, and I'm not saying this is what happened, but we all agreed that his numbers could go down and he have a better season. That like based off of the performance of the whole team. Not I'm not
Mhm,
saying that happened, but
mhm.
I'm saying they're not even looking at that as a possibility when the entire team struggled throughout the year. Also, you know what I mean, RJ hasn't been playing like an all-star from beginning of season to end. It kind of started in January and has improved since.
Mhm.
Everybody's been underperforming this year. It's not just random.
It's not just Randall, but to me, Randall is a big drop off. To me, is big because when you think about the areas of the court, somebody shooting 41% from 3 to 30, that is huge drop off. Somebody's
It starts with him. I agree.
yeah, when they talked about where he shot in his mid-range, I don't have those numbers, to where he's shooting now in the mid-range, it changes everything. And that's why I'm saying you can't just look at the numbers. You got to watch the games as well. And we all do. Randall hit a lot of big shots for us down the stretch, and that helped us win games. He's not that. You can't count on him inside of 5 minutes. You definitely can't count on him inside of 2 minutes. He's just not that efficient guy. He used to hit some tough shots for us, to those timely shots that won the game for us. He's just not that,
He
this
hasn't
season.
been that this year. I agree
But
with
the
you.
but the
I'm
question
not gonna say
remains.
he can't be that again.
But
Or
that's the question, though. Given the 2 seasons before last year when he was inefficient, then he had last year where he was lights out from 3 in the mid range. And now this year where he's back being inefficient, you got to ask yourself, is that just who he is? A inefficient guy. Somebody said, and I thought this was a great point, comparing him to Sabonis. He said, Randall may have a higher ceiling, but Sabonis has a lot of floor.
mm-hmm.
And then a lot of times you want that guy with the high floor because you know what you get in every single night. This guy with the high ceiling, you may get those numbers or that performance, but then the next thing you know, they in the basement. So,
Sabonis also never had to adjust to being a definitive number one guy on the team.
oh, you don't have to
So
tell me. That's
you know
been
what I
my
mean?
that's been my take.
like
That's been
like
my take all along. But the issue is his ceiling is high, but how many times do we get his ceiling? We're getting a lot of floor this year. We're getting a
mhm.
lot of floor. Now, I'm a Randall fan. I would like to see him here next year, but I, as time goes on, I'm wondering myself if he can ever be that guy he was last year. I'm questioning that now. Can he, can
Mhm.
he be that, or is it just him trying to find his sea legs, so to speak? Because this is what I will say, and this is for all of the RJ supporters too. You don't know who you have as a number one until the opposing team is game planning for you. We're not going to know who RJ really is if he's a number one. He'll be good like this. So we know he could play with somebody, but we're not going to know until that happens. We're not going to know until we see him in the playoffs. We're not going to know. So even with RJ, I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting to
I
see
mean,
him in situations. And we may not see that until Randall is off this team.
I don't even know if that's the case though. I mean even with RJ, like I'm loving what I'm seeing, and I'm looking forward to the finished product. The finished product we probably not even gonna see for another 3 years. That's
If he
like it,
continues this same trajectory, he's going to be nice. He's nice now.
I hear you, but we know what Randall is. That's
It's
fair
it's
enough.
getting.
I
You
I
know
don't
what?
I
I
think
don't
I
know
think the
about that.
difference between me and a lot of people is I'm not looking at Randall as the long term number one option, but I am looking at him as a valuable piece on a team once we get that. Whether it's RJ becoming it, which again, if that's what we're waiting for, I think we're still years away from that. You know what I mean? I'm looking
Right.
at potentially bringing in a number one guy and letting us continue to have Randall grow, continue to see RJ grow, bring Mitch along, and let him excel at what he does well, and let him also grow slowly, because I think
Yeah.
if he could just focus on defense and rebounds and obviously offensive rebounds, I think he has 8 offensive rebounds in like 4 games this year, which no other player
Yeah.
has.
I mean, I appreciate. I mean, I don't want to get too far off. We talk about Mitch, but I would like some defensive rebounds too. I mean, he had 11 rebounds, 8 of them offensive, and we need them
Mm-hmm.
because that's how he contributes offensively. So we definitely need them. Um, but a few more
And
defensive rebounds is not gonna
I agree
won't hurt.
100%. But if
Hmm.
listen, if you giving me eight offensive in the game, I'm not even gonna like you probably got at least two defensive, you know what I mean? And I'm not
No, he
saying
had
10 is
three.
10. I'm not saying 10 is like, you know,
Hmm.
as long as you got 10 rebounds. But again, if you're giving me eight offensive, I'm not like I'm gonna poke and push at you a little bit, like in a
Nah,
playful way.
nah, Tony.
Like,
We need
yo,
those
you should have
defensive
had
rebounds.
16. You should have had
Right.
16 if you got eight offensive. But eight offensive, like that's out of this world good. You know what I mean? Like
No doubt about
that's a
it.
number that you're
But
not gonna see
you're not. But offensive rebounds
by
is just extra
multiple times.
points. Defensive rebounds
It
is
stops.
ending. It
Yeah,
stops.
I
You
listen.
know
I
what I
agree.
mean?
And but to his
And if
credit
we're
too,
not getting
he's
out
also
rebounded, I don't have a problem. But
he's
if we're
also
getting out
starting
rebounded,
he's also starting to smack them away from teams as well. And that, that's to his credit because he hasn't done that throughout his career. And I think we are one of the top rebounding teams in the league. So again,
no, I'm talking about game by game. If you got 8 offensive rebounds, we need that. But if we got out rebounded that game, I'm disappointed because I need you to have some defensive
no,
rebounds as
I agree,
well.
but that just hasn't been the case. Is what I'm saying.
We don't know that.
We usually
We have
win
to
the
go back and look at the stats for each game, whether we were out rebounded that game or not.
I agree, but if we're fifth in the league in rebounds, chances are we're winning the rebound battle like a high percentage of the time.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm
But
talking
yeah,
about the games in which
specifically,
he
we gotta.
has 8. Like, did we win the rebounding battle? I mean, did we get out rebounded defensively? Anyway, that's cool, but that was my issue with Mitch from the beginning. He's a great offensive rebounder. His defensive rebounding is not that great. And we need that. Um, but I want to just make one more point about RJ. Even if we trade Randall, whoever we bring in, RJ is going to have to learn to play with him. Like, so it's not going to ever be a case where it's just going to be RJ and third string guys. you know, it's going to be RJ and somebody else, whether that's Randall, whether that's somebody else, that you're going to need 2 of those guys.
That's a fact. That's a
You're going to
fact.
need 2 of those guys.
All right. As promised, I'm gonna give us some time to go prepare for Queen's Court at 8:30. Um, Queen, thank you for joining me. It's been a
Very
pleasure as
welcome.
always. This is one of I like tonight's episode. I think we kind of we bumped heads a little bit on some topics, but it's always love and we I love to get opposing perspectives, which a lot of times as of late we've been on the same page with everything. So it makes for
Mm-hmm.
great chemistry. But
We're
I
talking
like to
about
have a little.
Mitch, so that's going to mix it up on the
that
Queen's
that
Court too.
that is a fact. But yeah, I'll see you there. I'm gonna
Definitely,
go drop my daughter off, and I'll be back within a half hour.
definitely,
Chat. Appreciate you guys joining as
definitely,
always.
definitely.
I see like 56 people in here. Hit that like button for me if you haven't subscribed. Subscribe. Um, and look out for more content from myself, from the whole MBK fam. Simeon
Definitely.
Russell, the Podfather, MBK. We gonna keep this movement going, whether the Knicks are winning or losing.
Or losing.
We're gonna have a lot of things to talk about, man.
Yep.
I am Gerald D Nice, Geraldine D Love, Siobhan, Hector. Appreciate all you guys. Salute to you guys that beat on me
David
without
L.
you. Yeah, your black is time. And let me just get my intro ready for you guys, and we gonna head right out of here. Bam.